All right, new problem, and we'll begin by reading that question sentence first. Here it says, what is the average speed for the entire trip? So the one thing that we want to understand is, other than this being a distance, rate, and time question, what we want to really drive home is that if we want the average speed, which is rate, if we want that for the entire trip, we cannot set up a formula without plugging in the distance for the entire trip and the time for the entire trip. So let me just go ahead and write that here. We need the distance for the entire trip and the time for the entire trip. That is the only way that we will get the rate for the entire trip. Seriously, I keep repeating myself, and that's for good reason. That's the main theme of this one. Because when we take a look at the information we're given, it says a cyclist rides 44 miles, in 2 hours, takes no break, and then rides 36 miles at 18 miles per hour. So when we take a look at the information given, my party people, we have two parts to this trip, in blue there and in green over here. So everyone, which of the two missing pieces is the easiest to find right now? You tell me. Is the distance for the entire trip or the time for the entire trip easier to find at this current moment? If you're leaning towards distance, that's distance. Distance is the easier one to find right now. How do I know this? Check it out. We have 44 miles for the first part of the trip, 36 miles for the second part of the trip. So if we want the entire distance, everybody, we're just adding 44 miles and 36 miles. That's how we're going to get the entire trip's distance. So let's add that together here. 4 plus 6, that's going to be 10. Carry that 1. 4 plus 3 plus 1, that's 7 plus 1. So that's going to be 8. So we have 80 miles. That is our total distance. 80 miles. So again, we're looking for that rate, so I'll just keep it as R. But now we need the total time. So here's where a bit of an issue occurs. Sure, we have 2 hours for the first part of the trip, but we are not given the time for the second part. Everyone, can we find the time for the second part, given that we have the distance being 36 miles and the rate being 18? Are we able to find that time period? Absolutely, right? We just have to divide both sides by that 18. Once we do that, check it out. We have 18 on both sides being divided, cancels out on the right side. And everyone, 36 divided by 18, that'll be 2. 18 times 2, that is 36. So the time for the second leg, that's 2 hours. So there we are, boom, 2 hours for the second leg. And then for that first leg, everybody, what was that time again? Right there, that's 2 hours. So the first leg was 2 hours. The second leg was 2 hours. We add all of that together and we get the entire trip's time, which is 4 hours. Now that we have that, now we're in business because we'll plug in the time right here. 2 hours, nice and easy. And everybody, what is the last operation we'll use here to get the rate by itself? That's going to be division. Absolutely. Here we go. We're done. Divide both sides by 2 here and there. Or excuse me, I almost made a huge error. Excuse me there. I put 2. It's supposed to be 4. Excuse me there. So we have 4. Thanks for being patient on that. And now that we'll divide 4 on both sides, nice and easy. 80 divided by 4 gives us 20. And that is our rate. 20 miles per hour for the entire trip. And I want to make sure I stress this point again because this is how we solved it. If we want the rate for the whole trip, your other pieces must be consistent. Distance for the whole trip, time for the whole trip. That's the biggest key here, my friends. But there we are. The correct answer is 20 miles per hour, which reflects on answer choice D. There we are. Next question up, and the question says, solve 0.5x equals 4. All right, so remember everyone, before we think about the number type that we're dealing with, it's better to just deal with the process. Everyone, what is currently happening? What do you see is happening right now with your eyes between the 0.5 and the x? What current operation do we see between them? Multiplication. Yeah, absolutely. Multiplication. So what is the opposite of multiplying by 0.5, everyone? Division all day. That's how you want to take yourself through that process. It's not about the weird numbers you see. It's about the setup. So here I'll divide both sides by 0.5 on the left and the right. Cancels out on the left, leaving me with x equals whatever 4 divided by 0.5 is. So if you don't know how to deal with dividing by decimals, let me just show you a really neat trick. And then I'll also show you a different way to deal with this problem. So number one, here's how you'll deal with this. To divide by decimals, don't. That's the rule. The way to divide by decimals is to not divide by a decimal. And here's what I mean. All I'm going to do is move this decimal place over to the right one time. Because if I do that, that makes it a 5. Not 0.5, but 5. Now, quick question, everybody. Is it true or false that if I move one decimal to the right on the bottom, that I got to move one decimal to the right on the top? Yeah, very true. Very true. And what number, my friends, what number am I going to put in this blank space? Yeah, I'm going to place a 0. Exactly. You guys are on it today. There we go. So that'll be 40 at the top right here. That'll be 40. Who here knows, and I'm not trying to patronize anybody here, but what's 40 divided by 5? Oh, look at that. Nice and easy. That's 8. Nice and easy. So there it is. That's just one nice little, trick way to deal with decimals when you're dividing by a decimal and you don't want to. Nice and easy right there. But now I want to show you again one more way before we move forward. So let me go ahead and just make a little more room by just writing a little barrier. And now I want to ask you this. Let's take a look at 0.5x equals 4. Everybody, what is another way? What is another way of reading 0.5? What's another way of reading that? Who knows? Yeah, half. 0.5 is the same thing as saying half. You can write it as half x equals 4, or you can write it as x over 2, so half of x equals 4. Because if you look at it this way, everyone, isn't it a little easier to see that all we have to do is multiply by 2? That's all we have to do. Doesn't that make it a lot easier to see? So boom, knowing that translation between 0.5 and 1/2 as a fraction, knowing this, knowing these relationships, it helps you. It only helps you because it cancels on the left, and then you get 4 times 2, and that is 8. The same correct answer that we got the other way doing this. And that's why the correct answer here is C, 8.